The US government supports ending patent protection for COVID-19 vaccines. India and South Africa proposed a plan, saying it would increase production around the world. Stocks in Moderna and Pfizer are down following the announcement.
The U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai announced the White House's move to ease protections on vaccine patents. On Wednesday, she wrote on Twitter, "These extraordinary times and circumstances call for extraordinary measures. The U.S. supports the waiver of intellectual property protections on COVID-19 vaccines to help end the pandemic, and will actively participate in World Trade Organization negotiations to make that happen." Tai told Bloomberg News the process won't be easy. That's because the World Trade Organization, or WTO, can only make decisions based on consensus. Tai said the Director General of the WTO should take this opportunity to see what the organization is capable of. The organization's Director General is convinced that once they have a draft of the rule, they'll be able to move forward with support from all parties involved. The surge of cases in India has made the issue even more pressing. India is a key producer of vaccines. The country makes one virus vaccine that relies on technology from Oxford and AstraZeneca. The head of the World Health Organization supports the move. He says there's no better time to do it than now during a pandemic that has killed over 3 million people worldwide. More than 100 countries support the proposal, and 110 Congress members have called on Biden to support it. Stocks of major pharmaceuticals dropped after news of the possible waivers broke.
Throughout the pandemic, experts have said the goal is to reach herd immunity. Well, now some reports are saying that we may never get there. NTD's Christina Kim speaks to a Harvard Medical School professor on the issue.
Herd immunity is when a sufficient number of people in society are immune to a virus. That means new cases won't lead to an epidemic. It might just infect a few others. But the messaging on herd immunity has been varied. Dr. Anthony Fauci admitted he's been shifting the goalpost for what constitutes herd immunity. He went from saying herd immunity would take from 60% all the way up to 85% of virus resistance. Fauci says this is partially based on science and partially on what he thinks the country is finally ready to hear. And now, some are saying that herd immunity may be very difficult to reach or that we may never get there.
I don't agree with that. We have known for over a year that we will sooner or later reach herd immunity. We did not know when it will happen, but every pandemic ends in herd immunity.
Another factor that may influence herd immunity, vaccines. Fauci said 80% of the population needs to be vaccinated to reach herd immunity. But Kulldorff disagrees. That's because he says immunity is built from both natural infection and immunity through vaccines.
Well, we will reach herd immunity with or without a vaccine. That's just how pandemics work.
As for variants, Professor Kulldorff says it won't impact our ability to reach herd immunity. That's because viruses always mutate, and it looks like those with immunity are still protected. He says for those who have been vaccinated or have already had COVID-19, they can go about their lives normally.
It's important to go back to normal life for both public health reasons, because there are many other diseases other than COVID-19, and the lockdowns have generated enormous collateral public health damage.
Kulldorff says the lockdowns have caused tremendous collateral damage and that it's a wonderful thing people can begin to return to normal. Christina Kim, NTD News.
Elon Musk's SpaceX says over 500,000 people have placed orders for its Starlink satellite internet service. You have to pay a deposit of about £70. Musk says the only obstacle is high-density urban areas. Starlink currently has the world's largest satellite network or constellation with 1,500 satellites launched. Eventually, it plans to deploy 12,000 in total, which will cost it around £7 billion. SpaceX is competing with Jeff Bezos' project Kuiper, which is also building a satellite constellation for internet service. And in other news, huge debris from a Chinese rocket is hurtling through space and expected to reach Earth this weekend. The US Defense Department is keeping watch for the uncontrolled re-entry. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more.
China launched the rocket last week to deliver a piece of their space station into orbit. The delivery was successful, but the rocket doesn't have safe re-entry features built into it. And now it's falling back to Earth uncontrolled. As it re-enters the Earth, it may not burn up completely in the atmosphere, and parts of it could crash land on Earth. The Pentagon spokesman says they cannot determine the precise point of re-entry until within hours after the rocket enters the Earth's atmosphere. Waves of concern have been flooding in that debris from the rocket may potentially land on inhabited areas. On Thursday, a CCP mouthpiece responded to those concerns. It accused the West of overhyping the situation. It went on to say the mass of the rocket is not substantial and it will easily burn up in the atmosphere. But the rocket actually weighs a massive 21 tons. It's the biggest uncontrolled man-made object to fall to Earth in 3 decades. China launched a similar rocket last year. It did not completely burn up in the atmosphere. Most of the rocket debris landed in the Atlantic Ocean last time. This rocket launch won't be China's last. Beijing has in store 10 more rocket launches before the end of next year.
Volunteers in China are shocked to discover lorries packed to the rim with live puppies and kittens. It turns out logistics companies are delivering these animals through regular mail services. Some of them die before delivery. NTD's Don Ma has more.
In China, hundreds of live puppies and kittens are found to have been delivered through regular mail as part of a shady business. These animals are put into plastic cages wrapped in plastic. Then they're delivered using regular courier services. They reportedly have to endure up to days of long-distance freight without food and water. They also have to endure being squeezed and tossed around, as couriers sometimes handle the cages violently. Sometimes these animals don't make it out alive before delivery. Other times they don't live more than a week after delivery. A Chinese netizen shared online that a customer once rejected a package containing a puppy. The package then ended up at the post office. Upon opening the package, workers found the small dog malnourished, shivering, and near death. A rescue attempt failed, and the dog died the same day. This business operation centers around a Chinese phenomenon called mystery pet boxes. The idea is similar to that of loot boxes. These mystery pet boxes contain live pets and are sold on online shopping platforms. The gimmick is that the shopper is not told what kind of pet is inside, and they will be surprised to learn when they open their delivery. Advertised photos of cute puppies or kittens lure shoppers into buying these mystery pet boxes. The price of these boxes are also enticing. They only cost $3. The business was thrust into the limelight when a truck packed with these boxes were intercepted mid-delivery. On Monday, local animal rescue volunteers in China's Sichuan province discovered some 160 pet boxes being transported in a freight truck. After local police arrived, the animals were transported to local shelters and animal hospitals. Some had already died. Some were on their last legs and died hours later. A local hospital said that a number of the animals had tested positive for canine or feline diseases. The shipping company has since admitted wrongdoing. Although China doesn't have animal protection laws, it is still illegal to deliver live animals through mail. Don Ma, NTD News.
Hong Kong democracy activist Joshua Wong will face an additional 10 months in jail. That's for participating in a commemoration of the 1989 Tiananmen Square last year.
Hong Kong democracy activist Joshua Wong was sentenced on Thursday to a further 10 months in jail. Wong is guilty of taking part in an unauthorized vigil last year commemorating the 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown. Last year saw the annual event on June the 4th cancelled for the first time in Hong Kong, with police citing the global health crisis. Still, tens of thousands of people lit candles across the city in what was largely a peaceful event. Judge Stanley Chan also sentenced Lester Shum, Janelle Long and Tiffany Yuan to between 4 and 6 months. A handful of activists gathered outside the court to protest the case. Chow Hang Tong is from the Hong Kong Alliance in support of patriotic democratic movements of China.
This is a charge for an unauthorized assembly, for a totally peaceful assembly confined to Victoria Park.
Wang is already serving time for other illegal assembly convictions relating to the 2019 protests. He also faces charges under the city's sweeping national security law, which was brought in last year. The legislation punishes anything China sees as subversion, secession, terrorism or collusion with foreign forces, with up to life in prison.
Google seems to be softening its stance on forcing its employees to come back to the office. It is allowing its staff worldwide to keep working remotely until September. Then they can decide between going back to their pre-pandemic Google office or an office in a different city. Or those workers whose roles allow it can choose to permanently work from anywhere. Google CEO Sundar Pichai told employees on Wednesday. Previously, Google planned to have its staff come into the office 3 days a week. Visitors to the Colosseum in Rome will soon get to see the structure as it was in ancient times. Italy's Culture Ministry is adding a new floor to the arena.
The floor was removed in the 19th century by architects to get a view of the passageways underneath. Doing so revealed a network of hatches, hoists and machinery used to bring men and animals up to the floor of the nearly 2,000-year-old Colosseum. The $22 million sustainable construction project will largely restore the structure to its previous condition and allow those ancient machines to work again. Some of the slats of wood used in the new floor will rotate to allow light to pass to the underground portions. The new stage will be used to host cultural events. The project will also install a system to collect rainwater used to supply the bathrooms in the monument. Construction is scheduled to be completed in 2023.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees.